Good morning to you and welcome to the news at 10 on Nta News24. We are reaching you live from Abuja and I am Nolin Ebel Ame. First, let's take the headlines. Vice President Kashim Shettima's trip to Commonwealth Heads of Government Summit cancelled. CBN says no deadline on circulation of old series of Naira notes. President Bola Tinubu restricts official convoys of ministers and heads of federal government agencies to 3 vehicles. And House of Representatives to investigate allegations of lopsided employments in government agencies. We begin the bulletin by telling you that Vice President Kashim Shettima's trip to Samoa to represent Nigeria at the 2024 Commonwealth Heads of Government Summit has been cancelled after a foreign object hit his plane during a stopover at JFK Airport in New York. In a statement by the Special Advisor to the President on Information and Strategy, Bayo Onanuga said the foreign object damaged the cockpit's windscreen of the plane, and President Tinubu, acting promptly, has approved a ministerial delegation to represent Nigeria at the summit in the Samoa capital of Apia, while the plane's repair has commenced. The delegation is being led by the Minister of Environment, Balarabe Abbas Lawal, as the summit began on the Pacific Island on 21st October and will end on 26th October. The statement said Vice President Kashim Shettima and Foreign Affairs Minister Yusuf Tugar have left New York for Nigeria. And back home, the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, has refuted claims that the old 200, 500 and 1,000 Naira notes will cease to be legal tender on December 31, 2024. Statement by Acting Director Corporate Communications of the bank, Hakama Sidi Ali, says that the Supreme Court's November 29, 2023 order, which extended the validity of old notes indefinitely, remains in effect. Both old and redesigned notes will continue to circulate, and all CBN branches will accept and issue them through deposit money banks. The public is urged to disregard contrary reports, use all banknotes for transactions, handle them carefully, and explore electronic payment options to ease cash reliance. The International Monetary Fund says the global economy has proven resilient and a soft landing is within reach. But what are the specific strategies for Nigeria and Africa? The IMF Managing Director, Kristalina Georgieva, has highlighted tailored policy advice, financial lifelines, and capacity development plan for Africa. Mukwelang Dakok reports.
While the IMF and the World Bank continue to support countries to recover and grow, the 2024 World Development Report indicates that 74 out of 108 countries like Nigeria, classified as middle-income countries, are still trapped at a lower level.
How countries break out of this middle income?
IMF Managing Director says the fund is undertaking some steps to restructure African economies and catalyze their transformation.
Basically, for low-income countries, this is not given that you cannot break out of it. But it does require a comprehensive program of reforms. It does require consistency of implementing these reforms, and it does require bringing public support for it. And what we do at the fund is to work with countries to identify that pathway, country by country, country-specific directions of reforms that can help achieve that result.
The IMF's position is that growth-enhancing reforms are urgently needed to lift growth prospects by boosting investments, job creation, and productivity. In Washington, D.C., Muplang Dakok, Nta News.
And back home in Nigeria, President Bola Tinubu has restricted ministers of state and heads of agencies of the federal government to a maximum of 3 vehicles in their official convoys. This new directive, in a statement by the Presidential Advisor on Information and Strategy, Bayo Onanuga, also indicates that no additional vehicles will be assigned to them for movement. The special advisor recalls that in January this year, President Tinubu took significant steps to reduce government expenditure by reducing his entourage on foreign trips from 50 to 20 officials. For local trips, he reduced it to 25 officials. He similarly reduced the vice president's entourage to 5 officials on foreign trips and 15 for local trips. In the directive issued, President Tinubu also ordered all ministers of state and heads of agencies to have at most 5 security personnel attached to them. The security team will comprise 4 police officers and 1 Department of State Services DSS officer. President Tinubu instructed the National Security Advisor to engage with the military, paramilitary, and security agencies to determine a suitable reduction in their vehicle and security personnel deployment. All affected officials are expected to comply with these new measures immediately, underscoring the urgency and seriousness of these changes. In other news, Nigeria is now in the process of transiting from reform to realization of the potentials in the livestock sector, and President Bola Tinubu says he is fully committed to the cause to grow the country's economy. He was speaking at the Stakeholders Consultative Workshop on Livestock Reforms in Nigeria held at the State House Conference Center. State House correspondent Musbaud and Wahab reports.
The man with the idea is here, and the idea to convert the challenges in the livestock sector to flourishing opportunities has continued to gain traction in the sequential processes of reforms. From presidential idea to reform and then implementation, the Presidential Committee is now set to get much broader perspectives with more than 300 participants from across the country.
Significantly, reforming and repositioning the livestock sector would also help us to mitigate the perennial conflicts between farmers and herders, which have bedeviled the sector with negative consequences to peaceful coexistence, community relations, and beneficial productive activities.
Beyond the primary aim, the Renewed Hope Livestock Reforms Committee is hoping to unlock the opportunities yet untapped in the sector. The Federal Ministry of Livestock Development, a recommendation of the committee with the immediate approval of the President, is becoming a reality. And with the vast economic potentials to boost the nation's GDP, President Bola Tinubu believes Nigeria has looked away from these prospects for too long.
The long neglect has well on our country's import bill between 1.2 to 1.5 billion It's being spent to import dairy food and all of that. Then what are we doing with the size of land? We didn't see the investment opportunity. We didn't see the economy. We didn't see the cold room investment. We didn't see that opportunity before now, but it's coming.
And now, with a demonstration of commitment by the administration, as it appears right now, only time stands between Nigeria and realization of the full potential of this sector.
It's about time that we do it right. A country of over 200 million people, I cannot serve our children 1 pint of milk in the classroom per day. We are going to give it all it needs to bring value to our country.
What we're doing here today is laying the foundation of a better future. For us in the state and the local governments, that's where the land is. We have to make efforts to make land available, to make the federal government's policy a success.
We shall also mobilize our people to take active part in the livestock sector development initiatives for the overall interest of our great country, Nigeria.
The diverse experiences and perspectives of stakeholders will enrich the ongoing transformation of the sector and help shape policies that will create Nigeria's sustainable livestock economy that is globally competitive.
So it makes sense that we are solving a security problem by supporting a sector that in some countries is a major contributor to gross domestic product.
Participants here have 2 days to come up with recommendations which will, among others, facilitate the smooth takeoff of the newly established Ministry of Livestock Development. From the State House, Musbah and Wahab, Nta News.
In the meantime, the 7 ministerial nominees appointed Wednesday by President Tinubu will, in the shortest possible time, be screened by the Senate for confirmation, as the list has already been referred to the Committee of the Whole. National Assembly correspondent Lami Ali reports that President of the Senate Godswill Akpabio said this while reading the communication of the President requesting Senate's confirmation. Okay, we shall bring you this story in the course of the bulletin. Meanwhile, we shall pause here for our first commercial break. Stay with us.
My administration took over leadership of our country 16 months ago at a critical juncture. The economy faced many headwinds and our physical security highly impaired. We found ourselves at a distant crossroad where we must choose between 2 paths: reform for progress and prosperity, or carry on the business as usual and collapse. We decided to reform our political economy and defense architecture.
Thank you for staying with us on the news at 10 on Nta News 24. The House of Representatives is to investigate allegations of lopsided employment and extra budgetary expenditures in some government agencies at Thursday's plenary. The House resolved to constitute an ad hoc committee to carry out the probe. National Assembly correspondent Mitare Ikpen reports.
The resolution was sequel to a motion from Minority Whip Ali Issa, in which he listed Federal Inland Revenue Service, Corporate Affairs Commission, and Nigeria Deposit Insurance Corporation among agencies allegedly involved in the infraction.
Funds meant for statutory operations being used for non-statutory in gross violations of the Fiscal Responsibility Act. If this allegation of lopsided employment and extra-budgetary expenditure are true, the principles of fairness, equity, and transparency are violated.
A bill to amend the TED Fund Act to provide strict conditions for tertiary institutions seeking to access the fund scaled second reading. Also adopted was a motion to remove tertiary institutions from Band A category in electricity consumption.
Call on Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission to place public tertiary institutions on the service-based tariffs of Band C, or if there is any band that is lower than Band C.
They're just saying that the universities who have shown capacity, who have shown resilience, who have shown steadfastness, can use their track record to have a better chance.
As long as the fund will not discriminate against new upcoming universities, where the older universities that have shown capacity will drive larger percentage of the fund.
Most institutions have not even met up with some of the stringent conditions, one of which is that until you exhaust the allocations for the current year, you are not entitled to take that of the previous year.
The House passed a resolution seeking rehabilitation of the Zaria-Funtua, Gusau, and Karan-Namuda railway line.
Make adequate budgetary provisions for the rehabilitation of Zaria, Funtua, Gusau, Karan-Namuda rail lines in the 2025 budgetary estimate.
Lawmakers, however, voted against second reading of a bill to alter the 1999 constitution to review the description of Islamic law, with advocacy for further consultations on the bill. From the National Assembly, Mitaire Ikben, Nta News.
In a similar news from the National Assembly, the House of Representatives is investigating the funding structure for MDS in the national budget amid a growing demand for exemption from the envelope budget system. An interface between House Committee on National Planning and Economic Development and institutions of government was convened on the issue. National Assembly correspondent Joshua Ogunjide has the details.
The interface seeks a robust budget for government institutions different from the envelope regime, which over time has been a source of concern. Hence, the clarification on the statutory power of each of the over 1,000 MDAs in relation to the annual national budget.
Please refer this committee where the revenue, where your funding is granted.
The council may receive donations and gifts and may engage in fundraising activities, but no funds may be raised outside Nigeria without the prior approval of the minister.
The House Committee and even the Senate are already working on the review of the UBEC Act.
The fears of the staff members are that if something happens, for instance, if there is disruption in academic calendar and there is no admission that year, where would they get their salary from?
This act has been coming and going like a beaker of polishing, and it has not got this final approval, and I'm pleading.
This is actually within this and other agencies that not warrant us to be available.
The committee says there will be no backdoor passage for defaulters.
NBRRI, please note that the committee has resolved that until we establish their status, legal status, they should be number one on our recommendations to the House. On no account should they appear on the national budget for 2025.
This amendment, according to stakeholders, is pertinent in its dimensional review of budget ceiling and development of a research framework. The committee is expected to submit its findings and recommendations to the Green Chamber for consideration and approval. From the National Assembly, Joshua Oguchidi, Nta News.
Elsewhere, in an electrifying display of technological prowess, a group of girls who in their final junior secondary school class unleashed ICT prowess in robotics and digital skills. Tokbe Alabi in this report chronicles the story of the young girls who in their teens developed their school's humanoid robot assistant.
In an electrifying display of technological prowess, students of Great Heights Academy Abuja unleashed their digital talents during a robotic talent hunt program organized by the school in June 2023.
We started this robotics over 5 years ago. We expect that progress and we are happy. The potentials are there. All you need all the time is to give the opportunities. Once the opportunities are there, our children will excel.
This group of 7 students stepped up the challenge of integrating modern technologies, including programming, robotics, automation, modeling, and blending graphics while pushing the boundaries of their creativity and technical skills.
Great Heights Academy celebrates several.
This was what gave birth to Noor, as fondly called, a humanoid robot assistant developed by the students for a smart interactive presence to assist visitors to the school.
We used ChatGPT as our companion and it gave us some libraries, but those libraries only worked with Microsoft's operating system and the device we have works with Linux operating system. Initially, it seemed like a far-fetched dream, but with the help and support of our mentors, we realized it was possible.
We have some limitations, like now the response time. We do not want it to be this late, but because of limitations of some devices, the response time had to be slow. And also the way it is, it's supposed to be bigger than this.
So when they came up with this idea that they wanted to do a project like this, and we told them, okay, it is actually possible, but then their input and their time and dedication will be needed.
There are a lot of problems in the society that we need creativity, innovation, critical thinking to solve. You also agree with me that technology education fosters that.
Closing the tech gender gap is already in sight, with girls exhibiting extraordinary powers of this amazing innovation.
I learned some components and I learned how to use some tools like soldering iron, glue gun and hammer.
I've learned that if I set my goals, I can achieve them.
Khadija is 14. She aspires to become a cardiologist, while Salamatu intends to be an architect. Both will be leveraging their knowledge of AutoCAD.
Aside from the technical experiences, the moral experiences, teamwork, hard work pace.
Like now, these are robots. It can, if organizations, banks, hospitals can have something like this, it will help a lot of people.
The future, they say, belongs to the digitally savvy. And with the school providing this opportunity and platform for students to unleash their potentials and creativity, students are poised to make their mark in the ever-evolving technological landscape. In Abuja, Tokwe Alabi, Nta News.
Very well, Tokwe. Our young girls doing us proud there. Now, Nigeria's First Lady, Senator Oluremi Tinubu, has donated a sum of 40 million naira along with food items to victims of tanker explosion in Majia village of Jigawa State. The donation was presented on her behalf by a delegation led by wife of the Speaker, House of Representatives, Hajia Fatima Tajuddin Abbas, at the Government House, Dutse. State House correspondent Adeni Tayo reports.
Families and loved ones and the good people of Jigawa State that lost their lives in this tragic tanker incident. Our hearts go out to the victims of the families, to their loved ones and to the entire Jigawa State and to Nigeria.
This is a heart-wrenching moment for all of us, and your presence here is a symbol of solidarity, compassion, and support that give us strength in this time of grief.
The role of UK Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office has been described as beneficial to strengthening democracy in Nigeria. This was the thrust of lessons learning dissemination and the inception event for FCDO's support for democracy in Nigeria. Executive Director of the Policy, Legal and Advocacy Center, Clement Nwanko, noted that FCDO's investments have yielded positive outcomes, including 25 years of uninterrupted democracy in Nigeria.
And part of discussing is to see how, going forward, we can tackle those challenges and take our democracy to greater heights.
This is the news at 10 on Nta News 24. We'll take another short break. We'll be back shortly. Stay with us. Thank you for staying with us on the news at 10 on Nta News 24. The Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission (NEC) has engaged industry players in the power sector to find solutions to the recurring incidents of grid disturbances. Joshua Ojito reports that far-reaching recommendations were proffered on how to ensure a reliable and stable grid.
Nigeria's power sector is at a critical stage, and the regulator, the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, industry players across generation, transmission and distribution, as well as civil society groups, converge to find solutions to the challenge. With 6 cases of grid disturbances recorded so far this year, industry players say attitudinal alignment among industry players, investment on aging infrastructure, and the need for the Transmission Company of Nigeria (TCN) to prioritize its projects are some of the immediate solutions to end system disturbance in the country.
Availability of gas, very important. Enhance security measures to combat transmission and pipeline vandalism.
I believe that putting spinning reserve and the free governor mode side by side can cure the volatility on the grid.
We continue to implore the entire sector. We continue to implore the regulators to please look to see how we can have a holistic solution to these problems.
There have been recommendations about going back to engineering. Yes. Obviously, detailed engineering studies need to be done to evaluate the integrity of the grid today and what is to be done to make sure that we have something not only comparable to our West African neighbors, but something that we can call world-class.
Recommendations at the public hearing are expected to be harmonized for implementation. Joshua Ojito, NTA News.
And talking election, to ensure a hitch-free governorship election in Ondo State, INEC has fixed Wednesday, 6th November 2024 to conduct mock accreditation of voters in 12 polling units across the 3 senatorial districts in the state. The mock exercise will start from 8:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m.